On today's episode, we tell you why Jadarian Price and Mike Washington Jr. will battle for RB2 supremacy and are the best options behind Jeremiyah Love.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, your daily podcast covering your favorite draft prospects. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Damian, Parson. I'm an NFL draft analyst for Bleacher Report. That's Keith Sanchez. He's the director of scouting with the Draft Network and 2019 national champion with the LSU Tigers. And as always, thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen of the day. And thank you for making Locked On Podcast Network the number one sports podcast network in America. It's all because of you. Top 10 running backs. Just like our quarterbacks, we're getting into the big three. We got the same names, but I think our lists are a little different in terms of placement after number one. Then getting the RBs 4 through 7, and then talk about RBs 8 through 10, and honestly get into the discussion of how good or how bad is this running back class for the 2026 NFL Draft. Let's start off with our big three running backs.
These are the running back rankings.
At number one, we both have Jeremiyah Love out of Notre Dame. Like, he's in the tier by himself right now. At number two, Keith, you have Mike Washington Jr., our boy out of Arkansas. And then number three, you have Jeremiyah Love's teammate, Jadarian Price out of Notre Dame. For me, I have both Notre Dame backs at 1 and 2. I got Jeremiyah Love, Jadarian Price, and then Mike Washington Jr. at number 3, Keith. And I want to start with Mike Washington, man. If you're everydayer, you would have known that, that you should have been watching Mike Washington Jr. Yep. If you're not an everydayer, you should fix that so you're never lacking behind on where these under the radar prospects are coming from.
Yeah, because I think we first discussed him. Was it in December? Right, it was early on in December, and we talked about it, and we came on a podcast, and it was a blind kind of ranking, right? Where I was like, all right, we talked about him. It was like, you like that guy? And I'm like, yeah, I really like him too, right? What grade do you have on him? You like a 3rd? And I'm like, I'm with you. I went 2nd. I think this guy's really good, right? And so it's always cool when you do that and then you see the process happen, right? And that's why we always say that draft season is always about, for the prospects, starting to separate themselves from team success or failures, right? And it can go one way or the other, right? Like, you can have a guy that's overhyped because he was on a really good team. You can have a guy that's underhyped or under talked about because he was on a bad team, but he's a really good football player. Let's get into the separation, right? Your reasoning for having Jadarian Price over Mike Washington, and then I give my reason of having Mike Washington over Jadarian Price. We have the same top 3. We just have 2 and 3 flip-flopped.
2 and 3 flip-flop. For me, why I have Jadarian Price, the workload is different. Mike Washington had a full season as RB1. Jadarian Price was that rotational back behind a special back in Jeremiyah Love. But I think it's the versatility and everything he brings to the table. He's an explosive kick return. I think he had 2 kick returns for a touchdown. I think just this year, this is a guy that can absolutely flip field position on special teams if necessary. And you see it translate to the running game. He's patient. He's got really good vision. This is a guy, especially down to me, he's a gap. He fits well in zone and gap scheme. I love him on the pin pull concepts. You get lead blockers leading him up through a small crease. He knows how to get skinny, work it, and fit through those small creases. Hits the open field, and then you see the burst. I think he ran a 4.49 at the combine, where Mike Washington ran a 4.33. So you see, like, from a speed and athleticism standpoint, raw athleticism, they played this a little different ball game between the two backs, and Mike Washington's the bigger back. He came, I think, Mike Washington came in with 6'2", 225, somewhere in there, and I think Jadarian Price came in like 5'10", 5'11", like 205. But I think I heard somebody say he actually dropped. He dropped weight. I think he plays closer to 210, 212, and everything. They know how to pick him at Notre Dame in terms of hey, these guys are typically around 210 to 215. But I just think the vision is there, the ball security. After their workout, I talked about with Jeremiyah Love, but it was also Jadarian Price, which wasn't shown on TV. He was running a wide receiver route tree as well, and he just looks like his fluidity, the movement skills, the change of direction where that projects, not just projects, you see it translate on the field. So I think this is a guy that has so much untapped potential, and we haven't fully seen him at his peak because he's never gotten the carries to get into a full-blown rhythm of like 15, 20 touches in the game. I think he's got big-time RB1 potential.
Yeah, so what I would, and I guess I'll explain my rationale, and I think it comes down to just perspective, right? And how we wanted to take the lack of reps, right? And in your viewpoint, you gave him a nod because he hasn't been the full workload. I gave Mike Washington the nod because he did have a full workload, right? But I agree, it was tough. I'm like, okay, who do I want to put number 2, right? And it was split and it was even, and not even saying that I view them as the same running backs, but it was even as far as, man, both of these guys have a strong case to be RB2 in this situation. I just went Mike Washington because I'm like, you know what, he did operate with a full workload, and I just gave him the nod because I seen him do it, right? And that doesn't even mean that I don't think Jadarian Price can't do it. I just went with Mike Washington because of that. But both are very talented guys, and even with Jadarian Price, like I think about the Kenneth Walker situation, and if I'm stating this correctly, right, like them not signing Kenneth Walker, to me, Jadarian Price is a prime Seattle Seahawks candidate.
100%.
And potentially they have very similar running styles and build as running backs, right? So that's one place that I strongly consider and thought about the Dallas Cowboys, right? And depending on what they do in the second round, right? Like, could y'all go grab you a Jadarian Price? And I know they don't feel like running back, and I think they signed
Javonte.
Yeah, re-signed Javonte, but being okay and solid at running back is one thing. Being really good at running back is another, right? And that's if they want to take a swing at getting into the boat of being a really good balanced offense. That's up to them. But the Pittsburgh Steelers, they need a running back. Like that. That's another team that can afford.
100%. I think they might lose if they. I think they might lose Jalen Warren. I can't remember. I don't have his contract stuff in front of me. But, like, you know, they drafted Caleb Johnson last year. They could pair Jadarian Price with Caleb and basically remake that Jalen Warren, Caleb Johnson thing. And I think the Caleb Johnson thing is that's the case study of how the NFL works too. Because when Mike Washington, the two big knocks on him is ball security because of the fumbles, and then he's got to get better in pass pro, right? And when you're not asked to pass pro a lot in college, that was the thing with Caleb. Caleb was the engine for Iowa's offense. But then the downside is, well, we don't throw the ball a lot, so you don't have a lot of experience, you know, in pass pro, right? So it's like we got to work on technique and aggressiveness and you just everything. You're a big physical back, but like we got to get you to playing, you know, get you to utilizing that frame and that ability and pass pro without, you know, sacrificing leverage and all of that, right? Like it's not just running head on into a defender. Like you got to be calculated how you strike guys, because just like offensive linemen, if you head over your skis, that guy's gonna just swim move you or push pull you, and now he's right on your quarterback. So I think that's the two big things where watching Jadarian felt like he was better in pass pro when he wasn't there. Again, limited snaps between him and Mike Washington in that regard, and I feel like he protected the ball better. Mike Washington gets into that bowling ball, just like bull in the China shot run style sometimes, and that leaves you susceptible when you're making contact with one defender. Now you got somebody, especially in the NFL, that peanut punch, it's real. You got a backside defender closing in, and he's not trying to tackle you, while his teammate is dealing with that physicality, that matchup of you and him head on in the alley. He's trying to knock the ball loose. How many times we see DBs who don't want none of the smoke to tackle you? They just run up from behind you. They just punching the ball out. And sometimes that ball comes out, and now, look, I think they lost the game, for Arkansas this year because they were in the red zone. They thought they were about to close it out. Mike Washington fumbled, inside the low red zone. It was just like, that's a kid. I think they lost like 3 straight games due to somebody on the offense fumbling late in the game. You know what I mean? Like that could have turned their season around, kept coaches from being fired, all that type of stuff at Arkansas. So yeah, these are the two guys that I don't think, for me, Keith, I don't think it's close for anybody else in this class to be in the top 3 like that. These are the guys who the talent's there. Like I said, some projectability for Jadarian. But when you're 6'2", almost 230, and you're running DK Metcalf 40-yard dash times, like, you know what I mean? But then also, you can change levels a little bit.
Yeah, DP, remember I came on here and I was like, his running style in the open field reminds me of, and I was like, I don't want to say this, because I'm like, this is lofty expectations, but Adrian Peterson.
Yeah.
And then after he ran a 4.3, I felt better about that podcast. I'm like, you know what? Yeah, I said that.
Yeah, I said it. I'll say it again.
Yeah, it's that type of open field explosiveness. But DP, let's do this, man. You know we have to transition. But before we transition into running backs 4 through 7, coming up next, I want to do this. I want to continue the conversation on running backs 1 through 3, and I want to ask you how talented, like how high is this group? Where should they be ranked? Where should they be taken?
Like
Provide more context for running backs 1 through 3, because they will have an impact early on in this draft. So I want to talk about that. Coming up next, we're going to talk about where should the top 3 running backs land in the NFL draft.
It's tax time, but for a lot of us, the old way of doing taxes is a lot. Trying to book an appointment that's not the most convenient. Sitting in a waiting room with a stack of papers, emailing back and forth, and wondering if they really get your situation. But this year, you're getting a major upgrade. Intuit TurboTax now has in-person locations nationwide. You can meet face-to-face with a real tax expert, and your documents get uploaded straight to your TurboTax app on the spot. And just like that, you're done. Your TurboTax expert works to get you every dollar you deserve, while you get real-time notifications as you go on about your day. It's the relief of walking in and meeting a real person and walking out knowing your taxes are being handled right. Head to turbotax.com/local right now to find a store near you and to book your appointment. Where should the top 3 running backs in the NFL draft land when April whatever date it is for the NFL draft? I think 26th. When April 26th gets here, that's what we're talking about next, guys. But free agency is here, and so are we. Get 1 month free of the Everydayer Club with the code free agency, no spaces, now through March 15th. Go ad free, and you also can keep this running back discussion going by joining our Discord channel. Join the club at LockedOnNFLDraft.supercast.com. Keith, Jeremiyah Love, Mike Washington Jr., Jadarian Price. You know, we talked about it with Jeremiyah Love. We both view him as a special back. I think he's a top. I think he came in second on our big board, our latest big board, and everything like that. In our top 25, we're going to extend it to top 30 and top 50 soon. Before the draft gets here, guys. So you will find out where Jadarian Price and Mike Washington and those guys land too. But I think for me, Keith, Jadarian Price and Mike Washington, I think these guys are top of the second round players. Could I see a team saying, "Hey, let's draft one"? You know, like you said, Seattle got picked 32, right? You're gonna lose Kenneth Walker, Zach Charbonnet's injured and has to work back to being healthy. Could they say, now at 32, I think I gave him Emmanuel Pregnon in our post combine mock draft. Give him a guard out of Oregon. Could they go into your offensive line again? 100%. Sure, they absolutely could. Could they say, you know what, we're the champs and we got a little bit of leeway and draft a running back at 32? Absolutely. I think one of these guys, I think it's not out of the realm of possibilities that one of these running backs, we'll see how free agency just kind of plays out this week. But I could see 32 at the earliest, but definitely top of that second round. I could see some teams, the running back is either as high as 32, early to mid second round. I think that's where you look at the top 3 in terms of 2 and 3 falling off the board.
Yeah, with these running backs, DP, this is where I think it will land, right? I think these young men, talking about Jadarian Price out of Notre Dame and Mike Washington out of Arkansas, I think they're well within top 30 prospects. I just don't know if they have top 30 resumes, right?
Facts.
And I think that's the best way to look at, like, when our final big board, like, don't be surprised if you see both of these guys inside the top 30, just as far as draft prospects. But I think projectability as far as where they will get drafted, I align with you that it's probably the very end of round 1 and then possibly into round 2, right? Like, or definitely into round 2 is where you see them. But just as far as them checking all the boxes The tape is good. Physically, they check the boxes as far as their athleticism. It's just minute detailed things that may keep them from being in the first round. And that's how I kind of view that.
No, I agree with you wholeheartedly on that. I think that's where, like I said, the resumes, and that's, when Jadarian Price decided to enter the draft, I was a little shocked because I was like, I figured he want to go back and be the guy for a year.
I thought so too,
and just dominate, right? Have 1,400 yards rushing and maybe 300-400 yards receiving, and you don't have to do kick and punt return anymore. You get to be the guy. But then at the same time, I'm like, you know what?
He already RB2.
You're RB2. You enter the RB2, RB3. You enter the draft with so less wear and tear on the tires of almost any back in this class because you don't have that workload. So for NFL teams, it's like, we didn't see him handle the full workload, but we know that I'm buying some tires that's rarely been used. There's not much wear and tear on them. So I feel really good about that first rookie contract of 4 years that we're going to get the best out of him, and he should stay healthy because of the fact that he's not been beaten up physically with 300 total touches in the season.
Yep, I agree. Well, let's do this, DP. Let's talk running backs 4 through 7. Let's reveal 4 through 7, and then we'll pick a guy and discuss that fall in this range.
Let's do it. At number 4, Keith has Emmett Johnson out of Nebraska. At number 5, he has Washington Husky Jonah Coleman. At number 6, he has Nick Singleton out of Penn State. At number 7, he has Jamari Taylor out of Virginia. At number 4, I have Tron Allen out of Penn State. 5, I have Emmett Johnson out of Nebraska. Number 6, I have Washington Husky Jonah Coleman. At number 7, I just can't quit him, I have Le'Veon Moss out of Texas A&M. He's got to stay healthy, though. Keith,
I know. Out of this group, I know where I want to go.
Yeah,
Emmett Johnson running a slow 40 time. How do you view that as far as ranking him?
So I think when I first did his initial profile at Bleacher Report, I said he lacked top end speed, right? I felt like he lacked top end speed. He was good in that 0 to 10, 0 to 7. He got good short area quickness and bursts, things like that. I think he was initially my RB3. I had him initially. Yeah. I had Jadarian Price at 2. Then I had Emmett Johnson a couple months ago. Then I had Mike Washington, coming into the new year. And Tron Allen was at 5. The reason why I ended up dropping him, the 40 was definitely not great. It was 4.56, and you're 5'10", 200. I think came in like 205 or something like that. You want to see a better time than that, But it was the movement skills. Like watching him in person, he just looked like stiff in the hips, like transition. There wasn't a lot of rotational fluidity going through the bag drills. And he was another running back that stayed after with the Jeremiyah Love, Jadarian Price. And there's another guy on my list that was out there running a wide receiver route tree. And he was fairly solid at it. But I was just like, man, like they're just going from, watching Jeremiyah Love run the rep, watching Jadarian Price run the rep, and then watching Emmett Johnson, I'm like, this is a vast difference of fluidity. Where, watching him, it's crazy because watching him at Nebraska, he would string together cuts, like lateral cuts. He get through he hit the line of scrimmage, and you see him jump cut. Now he's outside, and he'll put a move on guys. And I was just like, then to see him look, I don't know if he put more muscle on for his friend, because he also didn't look. I felt like he did add some more muscle and mass to his frame because he didn't look that muscular on tape. He just didn't move the same, and I was that disappointed me overall.
Yeah, I think he's gonna be that point, like in that structure, right, of doing the bag drills and having to do them the exact way. I wonder, the bag drills did what they're supposed to do, right? Expose potential lateral movement limitations, right? But I think I'm gonna lean on a film that I think he'll find a way to get it done because he finds a way to get it done, right? Like maybe in the specific structure and context of working the bag drills and that like tight and condensed spot is not his thing. But I agree with you. Like I seen some of the same stuff. I'm like, there's a little bit like it was similar to the edge rusher, Texas, David Bailey, right? David Bailey. To where there's something like, there's some tightness there. Right?
There's some tightness there. Yep.
Yeah. There's some tightness there. So but I agree with you. And I think he has opportunity to be a good, I don't know if RB1 is a ceiling for him, but a good RB2 type of situation could like pan out well for him, and he could be a very productive back overall.
Keith, I throw out a team because like there's a lot of smoke around the Denver Broncos wanting to add a more powerful runner with RJ Harvey. That, I mean, if you're talking about mid round, like third, fourth round, somewhere in there, if he would have fallen to there, that would make a lot of sense for Sean Payton to get that kind of Mark Ingram built running back to handle between the tackles punishment and that workload. And then also you use RJ Harvey as your joker, your Alvin Kamara, where he's in space, you getting them easy touches. You allow him to be that playmaker in space for you. I think that's a sneaky landing spot for Emmett Johnson, like to your point, being that kind of RB2 in a committee situation rather than being the true full-time guy, because he may not have the physical tools to do that.
Yep. All right, DP, let's do this, man. Let's talk running backs 8 through 10, rounding out our list. And then I have a question about this running back class overall. So let's discuss that coming up next.
College basketball is nonstop. Big games, tight spreads, momentum swings every single night, from early tip-offs to late West Coast shootouts. There's always action on the board. And now FanDuel is giving you a way to turn that energy into even bigger potential wins with a college basketball parlay profit boost. You can build any college hoops parlay you want. Rivalry games, ranked matchups, whatever fits your read. You can mix spreads, totals, and player props to match how you see the slate playing out. Look at the odds around your favorite team if they're still in season. Go safe, go bold. Ride with the team you've been following all season long. It's your parlay, your style, and now with more upside behind it. So head over to FanDuel.com today to get started. That's FanDuel.com. FanDuel, play your game. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen of the day, and thank you for making the Locked On Podcast Network the number one sports podcast network in America. It's all because of you. Guys, have number 8 to close out our top 10 running back rankings. Keith has Indiana running back Kalen Black at number 8. At number 9, he has Wake Forest's Damon Claiborne at number 9. And at number 10, he has Penn State's Katron Allen. At number 8, I have Noah Whittington out of Oregon. At number 9, a surprise. I was surprised to put him here myself. Eli Heidenreich out of Navy. And number 10, I have Nicholas Singleton out of Penn State. Keith, I want to I was gonna
say, if you don't mind, real quick, let's have this discussion because you hinted at it at the top of the show. And I think this would be a good point. We finished the list to talk about this. How good is this running back class, in your opinion, or not good?
I think this is a pretty solid running back class. Like, you know what I mean? I just going through the tape of these guys, I'm like, okay, like you can see that. I think it's almost like how we've done with receivers in the past, where it's like there's one bona fide one, like the guy that can come in and be your guy, and then you got like 1 or 2 guys that you feel like, hey, I can project you into that role. And everybody else is like, okay, you're RB2, RB3, probably gonna play some change of pace roles, stuff like that. I think there's some good players at the running back spot. It's just like, hey, ceiling wise, is there a lot there? And I'm like, no, probably not a lot from a ceiling standpoint, but I think there's some safe floors that you say, hey, I thought after Emmett Johnson and Katron Allen, like I think Jonah Coleman was my 6th guy. Like all of my grades are day 3 for the rest of the running back class. You know what I mean? 4th, 5th, 6th round. But it's like, that's just more so the value of where, that's where you'll be valued. And I think, you look at a Damon Claiborne out of Wake Forest, 4.37 himself. Like, this is a guy that I don't be surprised if he makes a team and he's an impact player for him, because you watch Kenneth Walker, what allowed Kenneth Walker to be so good in terms of what we saw, that kind of patience, pressing the line, that slow mesh RPO that they run at Wake Forest, that they've ran. And you see that same type of patience and vision, and then it's the acceleration, the burst, and the top end speed to pull away from defenders. So teams that have a power runner, I think, just to throw out a comfort, Damon Claiborne real quick, I think he's Keaton Mitchell, who we saw his rookie year have a nice impact for the Ravens before he tore his ACL the very next season. just that speed threat, explosive threat. But yeah, that's how I look at this running back class, Keith. It's a overall pretty solid to good class, more RB2s and RB3s than true RB1s.
Yeah, I think I'm with you. It's a lot of if the thought process is running back by committee, right, and having spellbacks and stuff like that, then this is a class you feel comfortable with. Compared to last year, right? We've been saying is that it's just the totally different brackets, right? Like this.
There's some guys last year who should not have went to the draft.
Yeah,
you could have been a second round pick this year because
yeah,
you could have had that extra year of production.
yeah, you would have been a second round pick, and you might have went in the 6th round, right? Like, and you think about the Kyle Manun guys and the Ja'Cory Cross, Ollie Gordon, like a lot of these guys,
all those dudes, bro.
Yeah,
all those dudes,
a lot of y'all went in the 5th, 6th, 7th round that have been maybe 3rd rounders in this draft. But getting into the list, well, let me say this. One, I agree with you, just with the overall statement of the class, right? Good, solid class. Overall, maybe not a lot of top end elite talent, right? And not a lot of guys you draft as RB1, but guys that, like I said, if you draft them in complementary pieces or complementary places and complementary roles, then you have a good spot. Let's talk about a couple of your guys, DP, because you had some names that kind of, I don't want to say off the beaten path, but names that aren't spoken about a lot, like the Navy running back.
Yeah, Eli Heidenreich, man. I got into his film. So when you watch his film, he plays both wide receiver and running back. He was the other running back that was doing the wide receiver drills. And I'm not ever going to do this to a back. I'm not going to ever mention Christian McCaffrey as a comp. But that ability out of the backfield, or it's just bro, I'm telling you, he's playing slot, he's playing Z. He's got a release package as a receiver. He came in at 6 foot, 198, almost 200 pounds. He ran a 4.44 in the 40-yard dash with a 1.55 10-yard split, 35.5-inch vert with 10 even on the broad. He has 16 reps in the bench press, and he's got the size. He's tough. But then again, that ability to catch the ball in the backfield, to run routes. We talk about it. What helps Brock Purdy force you out of man coverage? Christian McCaffrey. You know what I mean? You don't got an answer for that guy. You don't have an answer for Alvin Kamara, and we watched that with Sean Payton and the Saints for years. Okay, you wanna play man? Great, I want you to.
He would be
to target him 10 times.
A prime guy for the New Orleans Saints, and I know a lot of Saints fans want Jeremiyah Love at the Saints at pick 9, I believe 8 or 9. He would be a guy that you could potentially snatch up in the 3rd, 4th round, and he could give you a lot of the same role that you want fulfilled.
Kansas City too.
Kansas City, that's another prime one. I agree.
If they go out and get a veteran, if it's Kenneth Walker, maybe not, because Kenneth Walker's probably gonna get the bulk of the touches. But I still would draft, even if I signed Kenneth Walker. You know what I mean? Because they can share the field together. And with Andy Reid and a guy that knows how to play wide receiver, you absolutely could throw this. You come out and deuce personnel and shotgun, and then motion him into the slot. And Mahomes looks over there like, oh, I got him against a linebacker. Choice route, option route. You know what I mean? And it's just like, dear God, keep him away from Josh McDaniels and the Patriots. You know what I mean? He's the Julian Edelman of running backs. You know what I mean? That guy that played, Julian Edelman was a quarterback, came in as a receiver, and was one of the best ones in Patriot history, right? So I think with Eli Heidenreich, I really enjoyed watching him, Keith, because the athleticism translates to the tape. He's tough. He's got enough physicality. He's well built at 6 foot, 200 pounds. But then you also get that run pass versus catch versatility with him. And I think getting him in a traditional offense, getting him with a good play caller, man. Yeah, this gonna be a fantasy stud for somebody. You know what I mean? We don't talk fantasy on this show, but shout out to the fantasy community. This would be a guy that you'd be like, you know what? I'm taking them in late in them rookie drafts because that's a good landing spot for Eli Heidenreich.
Yep, I agree. And I agree with you that he's a young man that he can uniquely have a really good NFL career. And because of what he does, catching the football and running routes and things like that, that he can elevate himself into being a very important piece for an NFL offense, right? Like just having a very important role. So I agree with it because he's uniquely talented. Lining up at the wide receiver position, getting open, catching the football, looks natural. for him doing it. But DP, that wraps up another episode, man, of the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I want to end this podcast off by saying shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day. I am Keith Sanchez. You can find me on X at The Talent Code. That right there is my guy, my co-host, Mr. Damian Parson. You can find him on X at DP_NFL. And like we like to see, man, y'all come talk to us because we like to talk back.
Go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts, to get the latest episode as soon as it is available. Guys, coming up on tomorrow's show, if you think ranking quarterbacks and running backs is a headache, look at this receiver class. We're going to break down our top 10 wide receivers. I don't know if these lists will even look the same with all these receivers that's in this class. So it's a chance. It's totally different list that you will be seeing on social media and on YouTube and everything else. So come and join the conversation again tomorrow. The Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.